recorded this fucking tutorial yesterday, but my fucking face cam was blocking all the important information. I didn't even notice. I didn't even see it happen. I just watched in horror as this fucking ugly mug prevented anybody of any significance from seeing any of the important information. Look at this. Can you see this? No, you can't see this because my face is in the way. You can't see because my face is there. That's a problem if you're doing a tutorial. You want other people to know what they're looking at, so that way, they don't feel like they're going insane because they're not insane. They're following a tutorial. So, take 2, and this time without this. All right, here we go. So, here's my resume. By the way, I have experience with Blender. like nothing too impressive. It's mostly low poly. This isn't for anybody who's incredibly technical. It's mostly just for complete, utter, disgusting plebeian beginners. All right. This is for everybody who doesn't know what they're talking about, including myself. I think that getting into the nitty-gritty is something that's fairly rare with Blender tutorials. That kind of frustrates me because, I was trying to get into it at one point, and it was difficult just because of the lack of tutorials. So, here's a light, here's a camera, here's the delete key, and there they go. Now, this right here is a cube. You're going to be faced this cube every single time you open up Blender with a brand new thing. So, select this cube, and just by clicking on it, left click, and then we have a few options here. You can press the R key, and that'll rotate the cube. After selecting the cube, you press the R key, and it'll rotate it any which way you desire. You can specify that way by pressing the Z key, and now it's on the Z axis, or the Y key, and now it's on the Y axis, or the X key, and now it's rotating on the X axis. Now you can't just rotate this cube. That would make Blender a terrible software, and that it does not. You can also scale the cube with the S key. S changes the scale, and you can also specify the axes there, and there, and the final one is the G key. G is to move something, either this way, or this way. And I know S and R are pretty self-explanatory. That's like size and rotate, and then G is kind of nowhere. It's like, why is that letter of the alphabet being even near what I need to do? And I can't answer that. I don't know why it's not like M or something, but it is G. G is in Greta Thunberg. G as in Jane Goodall. G as in any other Goodwill, whatever. G, the letter G. So, just with that, we already have a lot of power. But if you press Shift A, that's not regular A, that's Shift A. That's A with a shift on top of it. You can add anything you so desire. Now we have 2 cubes. Isn't that fascinating? Now they're interlocked that way. But let's say I want to select both of these at the same time. You would press regular A. So that's the difference. Regular A selects everything. That's all. A is in all. And Shift A adds something new. Whether that's a mesh, a curve, or an armature, or I don't know, whatever this is. I'm sure it's important. I just don't know what it is. That's where you would go about that. So G, and then okay. Well, I didn't. Okay. Well, there's a cube here now. Why is there a cube here? Because I added it. Probably because I added it. So, cursor's in the center, moving it all the way up here to the, select all the way up here to the edit mode. Edit mode allows you to select one object, and then, if you you so choose, you can get a little bit more nitty-gritty about how you mess around with it. So if you were to choose one of its vertices, you can move around one of those with G or R. Okay, well, R isn't going to work with a single vertex. Or R. Or S. Now, that already is a lot of power. However, we want even more power because we are evil. And evil people are the only ones who want power. I don't know if that's true. I made that up. So, you know, don't tell it to your parents or whatever. I don't know. I'm the tutorial guy. So, this right here, on the left console, so bring your cursor from the center. Over here, we have all our tools, all the way here, and back in the center. And this one is the loop cut. That allows you to cut this in as many ways as you want in any direction you want. Now, by default, it's going to be one loop cut. So, there we go. I just cut it in half. Look at that. How crazy is that? It is now cut in half. I can mess around that however I so please. However, for the purposes of this tutorial, we are not going to cut it in half. We are going to cut it in 3 places. And the way we can do that is by moving our cursor up to the number of cuts in the top left and changing that to 2 and bringing it back over here and cutting it right there. That's right. Beyond that point, we are going to resize these by bringing them in on scale. And you can specify the amount of scale on the top left just by typing it in. So we're going to type in 0.4, and that's a little bit too small, so let's say 0.5, and we'll say 0.6. I like 0.6. That's a good size. So after 0.6, what we're going to do is you're going to bring our cursor to the top over here. We're going to press space, and we're going to select the top right here. Now, there are 2 new keys that are available in edit mode and only edit mode, and that would be I for inset. Okay. I for inset, and E for extrude. Now, suddenly we got a dreidel here, and that was literally with like 2 seconds of effort. But I don't want a dreidel. I want a vase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually undo that loop cut because that was pointless. We're going to make 1 loop cut instead of 2. There we go. And then at the top here, we're going to extrude by Z by 0.3, 0.5. Then we're going to scale that down. Then we're going to extrude it by 1. And then we're going to scale that up. And then we'll take this bottom and we'll scale it down. Now, let's see, let's make this a little bit nicer. There we go. I like that. Now, the cool thing about inset and extrude is that it's not purely just making things, sticking things out. You can also push things in. So if the thing that you're making, for example, is hollow, well, now you have a hole inside the thing, and you don't have to think about it. Now this right here is a very basic vase. I figured that would be a very solid start here. That's why I cared so much about the number of cuts, so that's what we're doing. I think that a vase is very solid. Now, white vases are very in style. I saw them a lot during the Art Deco movement. That's not true, I made that up. But if you press A and you press U, what you have is a new menu called UV mapping. So, before I explain what that is, I want you to click Smart UV Project, and then you're going to move down to Island Margin, and you're going to press 0.1. That way, you make sure that none of the UVs, which I'll tell you what they are in a second, are touching, which is an important problem. So, okay, now, what a UV is an unwrapped map of this model. So, every single piece that's on this model has been unwrapped and thrown into a 2D space where we can mess around with what it looks like. Now, I mentioned a second ago how I dislike, I dislike plain white vases. I think it's a lot cooler if they have a pattern going on. So, we're going to go up to this tab at the very top here. So, center of it, go up here, shading. And we're going to create a new material by pressing new right there. We're going to deselect this either with the escape key. Oh, wait, no, not with the escape key. We're just going to click right here in the gray void. Just click anywhere here. And then we're going to right click, add texture, image texture, and click right there. And we're going to move color over to base color. And that should make the base black. And then we're going to add new. Now, I personally drop it down just so that way it keeps that low res vibe going on. So I like 284. And personally, I'm feeling like orange today. We'll go with a brownish orange. Yeah. And we'll apply new image. And now we have an orange vase. Now, an orange vase to me is almost as plain as a white vase. It is a step up for sure, but I like a little pattern going on. So we're going to move our mouse up to this tab right here for texture paint, and we now have a space where we can draw on the vase. Look at that. Look at that. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more detail here. So what I like to do, I'm gonna drop the saturation. Alright. Okay, let's give this a little bit of a Zelda look, you know? So Zelda usually has like these waves on their faces. Well, yeah, that happens. Let's see. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I prefer when it's not perfect. Makes it feel more human. It has to be not bad, but you know, it's different than not being perfect. And oh fuck. Hold on. You know what? Okay, we're gonna talk about a new thing here. The numpad on the right side of your keyboard, you have these 9 numbers in the square here. If you were to press the 1 key, it'll bring you to the negative y axis. If you were to press the which one is it? Oh, the 7 key, that'll bring you to the z axis, and the 3 key will bring you to the x axis. So 1, 3, and 7, but also if you were to press the 6 key, that'll bring you 45 degrees to the right, the 4 key 45 degrees to the left, the 2 key 45 degrees downward, and the 8 key 45 degrees upward. That was really helpful for our purposes because we can go press 1, and then we can bring this to a little bit better of an angle, so that way when we paint, we have a lot smoother of a surface to work on. Look at that. Ugh. Wow. Look at that difference. Last curves. A little bit of a struggle, but you know, it just takes some time. It just takes a little bit of down. So it ends like this. So it ends down, so we need it to end up here. Yeah, alright, and we can combine this like so. That looks much better. Look at that beauty. Now, Zelda doesn't usually end with just a squiggle. Usually they'll add a couple dots, like so. Alright, we got a couple dots there, dots there. Alright. Couple dots there. Alright. And a couple dots there. Alright, now we have a full vase. Nice. And, you know, I really like this vase. I think it's a very cool vase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control S to save the vase. And I already have a vase, so I'm going to press... I'm going to press cancel. But you should press save Blender file. I'm going to press cancel. And if you want to export it, you can press export and GLTF. Make sure you use GLTF because GLTF is the only one that allows for animations, to my knowledge, in other softwares. I know some people use FBX. Those people we don't talk to. They are similar to the people who use charcoal when cooking their steaks. Now, there are a few tools that I did not mention here, and I will mention them shortly. For example, in the top left, you'll see Edit Mode. You'll also notice Vertex Paint, which I don't actually know. Weight Paint, and we talked about Texture Paint. So we saw Weight Paint. Weight Paint allows for you to decide how important an armature is based on, the weight here. And I'm sure that sounded like nonsense to you, but it won't next week when we start covering animation. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoyed your vase. We are going to get a little bit more in depth with this next week when I start talking about armatures. And I know that sounds intimidating, but I promise you it's not. It's actually really simple. It's a little bit tedious, but it is simple. So keep that in mind. I'll see you next week, and I hope you enjoyed the video.